I might have to put up a diagram for this video, but one of the real convincers, I think, that apologists ignore because they end up accidentally playing the skeptic game is that skepticism is actually not always the right tool to knowing the truth. And what do I mean by that? Okay. So this is where the diagram is going to come into play, but there are broadly four types of knowledge. There are true things and false things, and then there are positive beliefs and negative beliefs. So a positive belief would be, I believe this, and a negative belief would be, I don't believe this, right? And you can be positive and correct when you believe a true thing. You can be positive and false, where you believe a false thing that's not true. These are probably the most common claims that the skeptic/scientific method can disprove. Basically, if you positively believe something that's not true, it's very easy to, if you come at it with skepticism, this is the correct equipment to come at that kind of a belief. So if someone believes in a conspiracy theory, for instance, and they can craft a worldview that is coherent, right? The conspiracy makes sense within the conspiracy. What you would say is, look at the real world. What would we actually find if this was true? And we don't really seem to find that in our world, right? So say someone believes that the entire world is run by lizards or lizard people or whatever. You would say there would probably be more evidence for this than what we have right now. That's what you'd be being skeptical, and you'd go into some more things that I don't go into right now. And that would be the proper tool and equipment to deal with someone who believes lizard people control our world. Okay. A false positive belief. But there are also negative beliefs, not believing something that is in the world. So you can have a true negative belief. I personally do not believe the world is run by lizard people, and I think that is a true negative belief. I don't believe it, and I would say I consistently don't believe that too, right? You can have negative beliefs you feel strongly about. Would argue with somebody who said that they did believe that lizards controlled the world. Okay. But you can actually also have true negative beliefs. There are tons of things, false negative beliefs, sorry. There are tons of things that people don't believe, and yet they're true, right? So if you say, I'm skeptical of Newtonian physics, I don't know a lot of people that do this, but you could say, I don't believe it. And you'd ask them, well, the skeptic would say, well, what do you believe instead? But imagine a person who says, well, I don't believe anything instead of Newtonian physics, I just don't believe Newtonian physics. You would say, how do you explain a phenomenon in the world like physics without some schema of physics? That would be the skeptic's equipment, because you would say, I'm operating in the world with the knowledge that there are physical laws, and I just can't imagine someone not having some kind of schema of physical laws. It just doesn't make sense. I don't think how you could operate. And your equipment, and I think, my guess is, lots of atheist skeptics could really relate to the experience that lots of Christians have in this moment, or Muslims, or Jews, or other believers in God would come to a point like that and just say, this doesn't add up, right? Think about how many Christians appeal to without a creator. There's no morality. You can't possibly believe what you believe, because then you would just have no moral schema. And it looks like, from looking at you, you've got moral behavior. It's not even the complaint that atheists don't have morality. I think that's what the confusion happens sometimes too, right? I think atheists feel like when a Christian says, that doesn't make sense, there's no moral reality in the world unless you believe in God. I think atheists hear that as us saying, you don't have morality. But that's the opposite. It's saying, look, it seems like you do believe in morality, and you do believe in a coherent world. It seems like you do believe that there's beauty in the world and things that aren't as tangible or scientifically provable. It just feels like you do believe that. And they would say, no, we don't, whatever. Regardless of what they believe, I think it is experientially evident in the same way that physics is experientially evident to say You're missing something, atheists. You're missing a belief that explains what's going on in our world. You're missing a belief that explains the phenomenological experiences of almost all of humanity. Isn't that odd? I think that was the biggest thing that made me lose my atheistic false negative belief, right? Because an atheist will say, I actually am a very strong position right now, in the same way that hypothetical guy that doesn't believe Newtonian physics. I don't have to prove anything. And I think if you went to that guy that doesn't believe in Newtonian physics with skepticism, you just kind of said, oh, show me the proof. Show me the proof. Show me the proof. And he just tried to keep poking holes in Newtonian physics. At a certain point, you actually would get to something true, right? The Newtonian physical skepticist would eventually find the holes that Einstein found, right? He would find the systematic issues, right? What happens in a frictionless space and space-time relations, all that stuff. But it didn't mean that physics don't exist, right? It meant that something deeper than the Newtonian concepts exist. It was Einsteinian physics. And even then, I'm not a real physicist, but I'm pretty sure more stuff since Einstein has been discovered about the physical laws of the universe. It seems like it's a necessary belief. And the only way to address the problem of that kind of false negative belief is to say, look at your schema. Does it operate? Does it allow you to operate in the world? Does it allow you to meet the challenges of our world in a way that you could move on with that you could have a civilization, that you could have even an independent moral schema that is unique, is not just a unique, not just like a taste, a flavor, preference, right? So I can imagine some atheists saying, yeah, morality, I agree. I do act like there's morality because it just kind of, just what I believe in. And we both agree it would be worse if I didn't believe in morality. So I'm not going to dig deeper than that. I'm not going to question my assumptions. I do think that what happens there is that it just becomes your personal taste. And imagine, like, I think my problem is what happens is we all believe, I think, evil people are morally blameworthy, right? I can't think about the amount of times that Christian apologists and an atheist apologist have the conversation of evil, right? An atheist doesn't say there is no evil or good in the world. That just proves you're God. They say, it seems like evil is everywhere. How does your good God allow that to happen? They can see that evil, but by what metric do they blame it? By what metric can they convert it? By what metric can they address it? Imagine, like, imagine you were in a conversation with evil as an atheist. Imagine you were having this back and forth with a serial killer or a rapist who intellectually justifies what they do. I understand there's probably people that do lots of bad things and they still know they're bad. But imagine you're talking to somebody who just does not believe in your moral vision of the world. You wouldn't accept that. You just would not accept that because there's something compelling both of you to the same moral schema, even if it's these obvious spaces, right? Don't kill people, don't steal people's things, don't do all that stuff, don't rape people. You feel like there's something compelling all of you to those rules. It's not just a personal internal feeling that you're getting. And so to explain that, I think, is the burden of the atheist, and I think that's also the burden of, again, any false negative belief, which is what atheism is. So I would like to see, I think, atheists either address that, or obviously, I think becoming theist is the solution to that problem. But I think it comes down to the fatal flaw, I think, of skeptic absolutists, people that think skepticism is the solution to all moral or all truth claims, and that skepticism is our tool for finding the truth, when I think actually sometimes skepticism can obviously be a barrier to truth. And that's basically what theists have been saying for time immemorial.